we better now than we were a year ago?
In my world, there's a heightened awareness of who's with me and who's against me.
Wow, this hurts. This hurts to be separated like this.
Man, it's been hard. It's been hard.
God, this feels vulnerable. As a middle-class white male,
Welcome, friends. Friends from all over, different races and gender and spaces in life. So the reason why we're together is to learn from one another, and I'm just hoping that whatever we came in with, we leave with a little bit different perspective. That would just be the win for us all. And for those who are watching, I'll start off with a question, and this is the question that I think about is, are we better now than we were a year ago? Are we in a better space now as a country, as people?
I think that this is the first time that every single person on the planet went through exactly the same thing. I don't know any other time in history, but I'm half a century, so what do I know? But at least in my lifetime, have experienced that, where I could just sit at home, eat my Doritos during lockdown, and just be thinking, there's someone in Guatemala that's going through the same thing. There's, not just someone, all of them. And that's just mind blowing to me. And so when you asked if things have been better, I think it's been by default. It's not that we did anything to make it better. It's just what happened to us. You have no choice to be able to be reflective in everything about who you are, who you were. You have no choice.
I think the thing that impacted me was realizing that if I was out and about, I had to maintain a distance. And the thing that registered to me was that as I was moving through crowds, I would purposefully navigate space. And what that brought to my mind was, wow, this hurts. This hurts to be separated like this. It gave me a real appreciation for how important it is to have that kind of closeness.
Yes, we're in a better place if we take that time to become aware, to reflect, to empathize, to kind of open ourselves up a little bit. Otherwise, if we just stay in our own little zone and, keep our blinders on, then we're not going to be better because we're just trying to keep things as they are and, kind of stay blind. But if we allow ourselves to open up, then I think we can become better.
I remember as a kid, I used to play ninja with my friends all the time.
Me too!
Dude, it was the best, right? And I was just like, dude, everyone's like, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, the entire world is playing ninja. This is unbelievable, like they're all in, right? But I also think, I also think like, and maybe this is just my mind, my entire life has just been filled with comedy, and it's interesting, like my dad and I, we've had these conversations before where he was like, do you ever feel, Sharon, that like you've experienced like a lot of racism in Utah? He asked me this, being Indian and everything. And I said, actually, I have not. I don't think I have, and if I did, I probably didn't recognize it as such because I just found it a great opportunity to laugh at whatever the situation was. Because most of the times it came from like people being ignorant, but they just wanted connection, right? And so I think like even now, like the more we can find connection, and I like to find connection through humor, I think that's how we make it better. Like that's how we can help heal. Because I really feel like laughter is a great medicine, and as long as like we're finding ways to like positively laugh instead of like finding ways to like divide and cut down and stuff, then yes, we are better as a species.
I love what my brother is saying about comedy. I want to say comedians are the most trusted leaders in America right now. And they're absolutely creative geniuses. They can talk about the hard stuff and package it in a way in which it's digestible and entertaining. I think it's brilliant. Dave Chappelle does it brilliantly. I listen to everything that he says. But to your question, I would say absolutely yes. We are in a better place.
It's definitely hard to feel that way. I know for me, it reminds me of when my wife is like, "We need therapy." Ooh. We're good. Like, you can go talk to somebody. You need to talk to somebody. Like, we're good. And it's like, no, I don't think we're good. I'm like, okay, well then let's go to therapy. And I thought that I was calling
Therapy
her,
is cool.
I was calling her
Yes,
bluff.
it
No, it is a good thing.
No, I
But I was calling her bluff. Like, okay, I'm gonna book it then. I'm gonna book it. You know, and I'm gonna book it. So I booked it, and then she wanted to go. I'm like, okay. So we get in there, and then I just felt like, she's making it worse. We were fine. You know, like, what's she doing to us? You know, but it.
Exposure.
Yes. So it was
Diving
like
deep.
the worst, and then it started to get
That
better.
got better.
Yeah, then it started to get better. So I'm assuming that's what this is. But man, it's been hard. It's been hard. It feels like therapy that I didn't sign up for.
But you did.
Love that.
You
Love
did.
that.
You know, it's interesting because when you asked the question, my mind went to my world as a Black woman and the trauma that we've experienced. So when he was like, yeah, we all went through it together, I was like, no, we didn't though. But we actually did, and I don't know if it's better, but I think for me personally, things are better when a truth is exposed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a painful truth. It's a truth that is harmful to some people, but the truth is also refreshing. And so are we better? I don't know. We definitely have an opportunity to get better.
Yeah, I think it brought awareness. Like, for me, it made me so painfully aware of my privilege. I could work from home and not worry about losing my job. Almost everyone in my family, the same thing. Like, we have a socioeconomic status where the pandemic was tough, but none of us were truly worried about if we could eat next week or if we're going to lose our jobs. And we were able to just quarantine everybody in our own separate homes because we had separate homes. We didn't have multiple generations with the youngest people having to go and be frontline workers and possibly bring it home to the grandparents and worry about, am I going to kill somebody I love because I can't not live in this house? Like, it made me so aware of a privilege that I technically knew existed, but not to the same level.
Well, and I have felt kind of yes and no. So hearing you all answer, I'm like, yeah. But I, once again, feel like in my world, there's a heightened awareness of who's with me and who's against me. Mm-hmm. Who is sincerely open to my family and my children, and who would rather keep us at a distance. And I feel like specifically in my community, it leans one direction politically, and I feel like there's all these boundaries and boxes. We love you if you do and say what we want you to say, how we want you to say it, and as long as you don't purge too much trauma or too much experience, and as long as your kids align with us, and we learn the same education at school, and we don't touch on these topics that are hard or, sensitive racially, then you're great and we love you. And that's been really hard for me to navigate because I grew up here in Utah, where I thought most people like me wanted the best for me. And it's an interesting contrast with my husband, who grew up in the South, where he was very aware of those lines always. He knew where to go, where to walk, where not to go, what neighborhoods he could be in, what stores, what side of town. And now I'm feeling that for the first time in my life as a biracial Black woman, where I'm like, oh, I'm okay unless I cross this invisible line that a lot of people in my specific community I feel like are drawing, saying we're not racist, but here's the line.
God, this feels vulnerable. As a middle-class white male, I grew up in the 90s. I grew up with 90s comedy. Hell, I was in 90s comedy, I didn't know I was racist. I grew up in Southern California. I had so many black friends, so many Latino friends. My best friends was Chinese. Like, you remind me of my best friend. All of you people do. And I didn't know I was racist. But it's hard to know. We don't know because it's the norm. It's what we were raised with. It's what we were surrounded by. It's what they were surrounded by. They're not guilty of it. We're not guilty of it. But we gotta listen. And we gotta learn, and we gotta be humble. And we have to say, do you know what? I was wrong. Even though I didn't think I was racist, and I didn't say things intentionally to be racist. I would have never in my life been an intentional racist. But it is systemic. And thank God for my wife, because my wife is how I learned so much of this from the people she's listening to, the people that are speaking out about this. And it's not easy to speak out. It's scary as hell because you don't know if you're going to be canceled, right? And so, like, the cancel culture is a scary thing because what we really need is to listen and to converse. But I do agree that we can't have people in power saying things that literally cause people harm and take lives. It is not okay.
Can I say what? First of all, I want to say to the general, what's your name, sir? What's your name, bro?
Brady.
Brady.
Yeah.
I believe you.
So it's been hard for me to navigate, and I feel like it's been emotional too. And even thinking, do I need to move? Do I need to relocate? Like, now that I know all of these opinions and thoughts and feelings and views, I don't know if I feel really safe in my community. So maybe it was ignorance is bliss and it was there always. But now I feel like there's a lot more questions in my mind about everything.
Are you better for knowing?
That's a good question, Tammy. Yes. I am better for knowing, but it really sucks.
It does.
And I don't know what to tell my kids sometimes.
I have a son who's now 18, but when he was in the 5th grade, one of the teachers at his school was telling a story, and she said, "We go knocking."
Oh!
So he said, I think you meant doorbell pitching. And she said, no, I know what we did. We went knocking. Like, she was talking about taking Christmas gifts, dropping them off at the door, knocking on the door, and running. And he said, I'm gonna go call my mom. And so she let him leave, and he's in the office and he's telling the story. While he's telling me the story, I am getting in the car with my pajamas on, driving to the school around the corner. He's on the phone. My phone rings. The principal is in his office listening. He's like, I just want you to know I just heard about what happened and I'm going to take care of it. I said, I'm pulling up. I'm in the driveway right now. I'm coming into school. And so the principal then says to my child, my 5th grader, what should we do? How should we handle this? So I'm saying that because when you have black and brown kids that are in schools that are predominantly white areas, they don't receive the same education as their white peers. They're having these different experiences, but also they go to school as students, but they end up having to become educators themselves. And I said to the principal, what do you mean? Why are you asking him what you should do? Don't you have, what about the superintendent? What about this person? And so I'm going down the list of people, and he was like, yeah, I just want him to feel comfortable. Well, now as a parent, I feel very uncomfortable because I have to remind this kid to take a shower. Like, are you serious? You want to put this lady's fate in his hands? And so I'm just, it's one of those things where I think that when things happen, people look to black and brown people and they're just like, they're the reason, but we're not the reason. We're not.
I talked to an uncle in Nigeria, and I remember he was talking to me about the mask. And I remember he said to me, Tunde, because that's my African name, he said, Tunde, are you wearing your mask? I said, I'm at home. He said, wait, go and get your mask. I was like, okay, yes, sir. I had to show it to him. I was like this. said, good. He said, do you know why you're supposed to wear your mask? I said, because of COVID? He said, yes, but there's another reason. I said, what's that? And then he went into this whole African proverb thing. We have one mouth and 2 ears. And then he says to me, and we are told that we need to cover our mouth like this. He said, God is trying to tell us something. To shut up and listen.
I was studying at BYU, and I went to class once, my public speaking class, and there was this girl there, a really sweet girl. She was studying to be a nurse, and when I came in, her eyes just lit up. She said, Sharon, of course, I have like the best story to tell you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love stories, and especially the ones that are the best. Love them. So I was like, yeah, like, tell me all about it. And she said, well, you know that I'm starting to be a nurse, right? I'm like, yeah, you told me that. She's like, well, check this out. I went to southern Utah the other day, and I got to work on the Indian reservation there. Isn't that great? And I know she wanted to connect with me. It was so hard. I know. And I just like looked at her, and my thoughts were prayer. I'm like, please, God, let no one else hear this comment. You know? And I'm like, oh wow, you know. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. And of course I didn't get offended because like she was so like her heart was just all about connection. That's what she wanted. She had been preparing to tell me this all day until I finally got there, right? And so I'm like, wow. Now, you know I'm from India, right? And she's like, oh, I know, and I guess they're kind of different, right? I'm like, I mean, a little bit. It's like, tomato, right? But the thing was, it was interesting because like she was so pure in her intention, right? And if someone shamed her in this moment of being pure, like I think that would be the worst thing that we could do, right?
Despite my parents bringing me up, I've said all of the nasty things you could think of and meant them in the past, and I don't anymore. But I know that that's part of who I was, and that changed because I was included. It changed. I remember very distinctly. I got back from my mission, and again, it was in Seattle, so there were just not very many black people up there. There were a few. There were more Indians than black people, but there
Native Americans. Right?
there were some of those too. Even out of my mission, even in Arizona, I was around a lot more Latinos, and Asians were in my class. I just steered clear of most of the black people. And out there in Sacramento, when you're walking door to door, you just can't avoid them. There's no way to do it. And they gave me routes and neighborhoods to go to that were scarier for other people. And I was the new guy, and they were there, and I started going along, and I had a lot of preconceived notions about what it was like and who these people were, and being out there and being among them and seeing how they treated me, seeing how like they had no reason to trust me or include me or even talk to me, and they did. A lot of them chose to do that. It changed my perspective, changed my heart, because I got invited to do things, and those people treated me better than a lot of the people of my own race were treating me around there. And so my heart was changed because I was around them. But if I hadn't had that experience, I don't know where I would. I just might have kept that avoidance and exclusion part of it.
But I think it's our job, like being the majority, having everything catered to us. It is our job to do the work and to teach the people around us. Like, I know people who are white who genuinely say that there is no racism, and that is shocking to me because I see it all the time. And when I share certain stories, like last year when we had that huge windstorm, a tree knocked out the power to the home right next to mine, which was this beautiful black family with 3 kids who were in online school. And I was leaving town for the week, so I went over and gave them the keys to my house and said, go and live in my house, come go as you please. use the fridge, use my Wi-Fi, here's all the passwords. And when my neighbor said, well, I have a teenage son and a husband, and if they start going in and out of your house, I'm terrified. The police are going to get called on them. And that thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Like, it wouldn't occur to me. I could go in and out of any house anywhere, and I seriously doubt anyone would call the cops on me because of how I look. And so I went to all the neighbors in our little area and explained that I was going out of town and that their power was out, so they'd be using my home for the week. And I shouldn't have to do that. That shouldn't be a thing. And so when I talk to my white friends who don't believe racism exists or who are openly or covertly racist, I talk to them and I share the experiences that I've seen and I share the statistics and the research that's out there. I mean, a white person who hasn't graduated from high school has more generational wealth than a black person with a college degree. Like, that's unacceptable. And so many white people have no clue. And so it's not on our black and brown brothers and sisters to do the work and to educate. Like, it is on me. It is on people who look like me to do the work and to learn and to talk to the people who aren't willing to meet people who look different or think different or have different races. And I'm so grateful that you were in a diverse situation and that you met amazing people who loved you. And I'm so grateful that I have had friends who have done that for me, so I recognize that there's so much more work that I still need to do. But as I do that work, I realize it is not on my friends who are black and brown to have to teach me.
I'm grateful for what we went through. I really am. I wouldn't, if God said, hey, should we just erase that part? I'd say, please no. However painful it was, I'd be like, please no. Because that's what pain is for, man.
Now, there's a phrase that pops up in the New Testament all the time. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear.